What makes a search result page? Hi, I'm Nava Hopkins, and I'm here to break down the different mechanics of search result pages. We're going to go through 4 different queries and explore how the user behavior, i.e. me and my various profiles, the actual query language, i.e. intent, whether it's transactional or research oriented, and the mechanics of whether SGE or search generative experience plays a role. While I am a PPC person, yay optimizer perspective, this is going to touch a little bit on how different SEO mechanics do play in so that you can have the most holistic conversation as possible. Without any further ado, let's dive in. So the very first query is dog trainer near me. This was done with my work profile, so it has very little knowledge into my actual purchasing behavior when it comes to my Brat Brigade, HK Freya, and Momo. As we can see, we have a few different text ads that are factoring in my physical location in Rhode Island, and it's pretty much all ads at the top. We then have our organic map pack, and as you'll see, as I hovered over the map, it actually put the locations to the side so that I could then pick and choose which one if I wanted to use the map. Then we have some organic results. We then have our knowledge panel. Finally, we have our forums, and then we keep going down. So this is what we typically think of when we think of a search result page. A query with ads, organic results, map pack for a local business, the forums, knowledge panel, so on and so forth. Now, why I want to show you this one first is that it has the least amount of information about me, the user. So Google, not knowing very much about me, the user, went with a transactional intent. Here's ads. Now, the next one we're going to look at is actually on my personal profile, the one that is soaked in purchasing behavior and consumer information around my dogs and how much time I actually take to make a purchasing decision. So the very first one is obviously going to be shopping ads. That makes a ton of sense. When it comes to dog toys for tough chewers, I want to see the picture of the toy. But what's interesting is that the next option is actually the search generative experience. And we do see that there are some products as well as text information. Now, why I find that really interesting is that I, as a user, tend to actually do quite a bit of research before I look at toys, but then I tend to buy my toys in a physical store. Now, why that I find that interesting is I have my credit card connected to Google Wallet. So Google would understand my purchasing behavior provided I'm logged in and I use that card. Now, the next bit that's kind of interesting is we have some organic results. That makes a ton of sense. We then have our knowledge panel, more organic results. We have some brands to explore, more products, and it's a little while before we get to actual text ads. Now, why this is so interesting is that when we think about that metric, top of page ads, the shopping ads are at the top of the page. That's totally true. But the text ads don't appear until much further down the search result page. So top for that section might be great, but it's all the way down, so it's essentially useless. The next query we're going to look at is a purely research one. Is my dog anxious or angry? Now, what's interesting about this is that the generative experience, the SGE, actually outranked the typical organic results. Now, why I find that interesting is I actually have 2 dogs that I got from a rescue. All 3 are rescue dogs, but 2 that had a lot of anxiety issues. One that I actually had to put on medication. And so when it comes to what got served to me, I was actually very surprised that the SGE outranked the kind of normal organic results. We have the knowledge panel, and it's pretty much all organic content. So I found that interesting because I have actually shown purchasing intent when it comes to this sort of service, but because I haven't shown that purchasing intent in such a long time, because my dogs are now very well adjusted and I've essentially gotten them on a really good path, Google knows that if it were to try to insert transactional intent into this query, i.e. serve me ads, it would actually be a waste of real estate. So this I thought was a very clever use on Google's part. The final query we're going to look at is rescue dogs. Now this is kind of an in-between profile. It's technically a personal profile, but I use it a lot for work, so it doesn't have quite as much of my purchasing behaviors built in. But what's very interesting about this is that while we do have a few organic results at the top, the lion's share of this is actually the forums. So when we think about Reddit and Quora and any other forum that does not require a login to access, this is a very powerful opportunity to actually get into the search result page and to influence the conversation on search result pages that you may not be able to rank organically or you may not be able to afford. So this is a breakdown of 4 different search result pages with 4 different users, even though they're all me, and why ads serve on them. So just a couple of quick takeaways before we wrap up. Number 1, do not sweat if your ads aren't serving at the top of the page. Google is actually being very clever about deciding where and when to put your ads because there is transactional intent at play, and if you serve your ads for the wrong users, you're just wasting resources. On the other hand, you do want to be mindful about how much you engage with different social profiles, because if you're able to connect your brand to a conversation and build that really wonderful community, you might actually be able to outrank your competitors through those social conversations and lead your users back to you another way. The final thing I'll share, when it comes to queries and doing these searches, if you do them, you are creating impressions that may not result in clicks. And eventually, if you keep doing that, Google's going to get the signal that you're not actually interested. So be mindful that you don't want to do too many queries trying to get your ad to serve. You actually want to use a tool called Ad Preview and Diagnosis. Happy to do a review of that in a future video, but you just want to be mindful of that. Thank you so much for investing a little bit of time to go over all the different types of queries and how they work. If you like this content, give me a like, give me a follow, and check out more from my optimizer perspective. This has been Nava Hopkins signing off and wishing you a beautiful day on the path to profit and victory. Cheers, guys. Bye.